The crowd chanted, beating the bottom of their staffs against the ground and sounding drums. The droning repetition for smite an enemy made it clear I was no longer among friends. Over and over again, faster and faster, pointed spears only inches away from my eyes. I was on my knees in the center of the throne room. I was not allowed to move an inch. The tension in the room could be cut with a blade. I awaited the decision of Pharaoh Mamus, the highest order of Thebes. He would determine if I should live or die. The members of the royal family walked in together, all dressed in the finest Egyptian linen and adorned in the finest golds. They all took the center stage with Pharaoh Mamus in the front. No one ever walks in front of a pharaoh, and no head shall ever be higher than his. He is the closest to the gods. As such, all took their rightful positions behind him, in front of their golden thrones, including his wife and daughter, Tatiana. The scribe exclaimed to the gathering, "It gives me great honor and pleasure to announce the king of Thebes, Pharaoh Mamus. It has been brought to my attention that we have a traitor in our house," said the pharaoh. "This traitor who kneels before us has been helping slaves. He has been feeding them, clothing them, and worst of all, helping them to escape." "Father, no," pleaded Tatiana. "Don't do this." "Silence, daughter," the pharaoh rebuked. "So I have thought of a suitable punishment. Since you are to help the slaves and love them so much, you shall become one. A slave to the sun, a slave to the desert," the king yelled aloud. I made no move or plea to him. I stayed silent, locking my gaze on my beloved Tatiana. "Amun-Amun-Hotep will be banished to the Valley of the Kings forever, until he withers away and dies," the god king yelled. The great doors of the kingdom opened. The rays from the sun shine bright unto the kingdom of Thebes. Soldiers had me surrounded. One began to tie my bands tighter around my wrists. I stood and began a slow march towards the entrance of the kingdom's gates. As I marched away from what was my home, I could hear the pharaoh's voice continue to call out to me. "For you, who was once a son to me, will never return to the kingdom of Thebes. Let the crows eat your eyes out. Let Amun-Hotep never be seen in the kingdom again." I continued to walk down the long pathway. There were crowds on each side. The inhabitants began screaming at me, calling me a fraud, an imposter, even a half-breed. Some even began to throw fruit and other small objects at me. My hands were tightly bound as the kingdom's doors closed behind us. 2 soldiers on their horses walked with me to the beginning of the desert. "Good luck, king of slaves," they taunted. "This is your new kingdom now." My banishment complete, I was now a nomad, alone in the treacherous wilderness. Gone from the house of Thebes, I was left with nothing. I could no longer distinguish the passing of time as the scorching sun continuously beat down upon me like a native drum at a celebration. It felt like days or weeks as I began to wither away, weak, thirsty, and helpless. I walked through the desert for what seemed like an eternity. I looked back and noticed I had not traveled far. Whether that was because I was that weak and slow, or because my subconscious compelled me to stay near, in the vain hope that the pharaoh would change his mind and bring me back, I could not tell. Flying low above me, huge vultures began to circle, as if sensing my imminent demise, ready to feast upon me, as if my flesh were an offering to the goddess Isis. Suddenly, the birds scattered as the Sahara sky opened. A golden staircase formed leading up to the sun, and then as if from the sun itself emerged a magnificent figure. He walked on the steps with dignity and honor, and brilliance like a god. In disbelief, I tried to keep my head up, affixing my gaze to him while keeping my hands up to shield my eyes from the sun. As the incredible figure reached the bottom of the staircase, he stood before me, the sun behind him outlining him in a heavenly glow. "Who are you?" I said. "I am the prophet Ra," he said. This concludes part 1 of Sun God.